हेलो एवरीवन, गुड मॉर्निंग। आज मैं करूँगी चैप्टर नंबर 8 स्टार्ट कुरुकू का, जो कि लिखी गई है बामा के द्वारा। दिस इज़ द सेकेंड चैप्टर दैट इज़ प्रेस्क्राइब्ड फॉर यू। दिस चैप्टर इज़ अबाउट मीन्स चैप्टर नंबर 8 एंड चैप्टर नंबर 4 दो प्रेस्क्राइब किए गए हैं। दिस चैप्टर इज़ अबाउट बामाज एक्सपीरियंस इन द होली ऑर्डर इन द कॉन्वेंट इन विच शी बिकेम अ नन. She begins with a one sentence summary of her previous life. I was born in a small village as a Dalit girl. I grew up, I studied, and I worked for 5 years. And then, as I have said before, I entered a convent. Okay, ये शब्द हैं कुरुकू इनके बामा जी के. The order she joined had been founded by a woman who had loved the poor and the lowly, and had educated the children of the poor and helped them in their lives. Once inside the convent, she realized that her family members who had warned her about the conditions in the convent were right. She found herself in a different world in the convent. While she talked of Jesus and Mary, they lived in great comfort, eating lavish meals with dishes whose name Bama didn't know, or if she did, couldn't pronounce. She says that the convent was so big it could have accommodated all the people from her community in her village. She felt as out of place there as she would have in an upper caste home. Nor could she go about her work in peace, for convent life was because convent life was full of politics and intrigue. Shadyandra. The convent was about enjoyment, not about alleviating the suffering all around. Even your status within the convent was dependent on how rich your family was. The school attached to the convent was no better. They took only 4 or 5 poor children as a token, and these children were discriminated against by all. The vows of poverty, chastity and obedience that nuns had to take became a means of control and enslavement, according to Bama. There was no sense of poverty within the convent. Bama says that the nuns were within luxurious cages, trapped in comfort. The love that the church professed was only for the rich. If challenged, the authorities would say that God's love was not only for the poor, and that God had said, "The poor are with you always." The vows of obedience was that kept people like Bama in check. The nuns could hardly lift their hands, so submissive had they to be. Bama was forced to serve the rich, not the poor, as she wished, because she was told to learn obedience and faith. The training that the nuns received had no connection to the lives they had to live later. If the nuns found it hard to fit in, they were told that they did not have the calling. Bama feels that the church had no connection with the lived reality in India. The authorities that had been indoctrinated during their studies in Europe and in America. Not only did the convent had no idea about Dalits, they spoke disparagingly of them. Bama served for 3 years in the first place. Then she was transferred 5 times within a month. At the end, they again placed her in a big school for rich children. Bama couldn't stand it, and after 5 months, she left the holy orders. Neither was it easy to live, nor was life outside the convent any easier. Now we are on the 9th chapter, that is the last chapter of this book. The convent, in spite of all Bama's contentions, was a secure and comfortable place. Outside, she had to endure hardships and work for the next meal. She felt out of place in the world outside. The first place where she was interviewed, she was told the salary was was 400 rupees a month. But even this job was denied to her because she was a Dalit, and the school was run by the Nadar community, and they wanted to appoint only Nadar women. Bama bemoans the existence of such caste based schools and wonders where the Dalits are to go since there are no Dalit schools. Even Catholic schools do not take too many Dalits because they feel that standards would fall. Bama found it even more difficult to move around in the outside world because she was not only a Dalit but also a woman. Okay, but Bama says she had not regretted leaving the comforts and security of the convent. The convent was alienated from the suffering of the poor. But Bama feels that she had been brainwashed at the convent, which is what it made it difficult for her to adjust to life outside. She had changed so much in character that she was a stranger even to herself. However, she feels a contentment outside the convent. She is in her natural elements again, like a fish back in the water. She ends the book with the thought that even if she is like a bird with broken wings, she is optimistic about the future. She is certain that it is possible to live a meaningful life, a life that is useful to others. She is no longer leading a hypocritical life. इसके बाद आता है आफ्टरवर्ड. प्रीफेस हमने पढ़ लिया था. इन द आफ्टरवर्ड टू द इंग्लिश एडिशन, बामा राइट्स दैट many changes have taken place in the 7 years since she wrote Karukku in Tamil in 1992. She says that even though there are 1,000 difficulties which beset a Dalit woman living on her own, yet the truth is that in my position as an independent woman, there are many opportunities for me to spend my life usefully and especially to work for the liberation of Dalits. She has discovered strength within herself, seen the progress of the movement for Dalit liberation, and been inspired by many other Dalit women. Thus, the afterword confirms the validity of the optimism that the book had ended with. मतलब optimistic सोच है उनकी ना, जो writer है उनकी. Okay, right now I am on 2.4.2 Karukku and analysis. अब analysis start हो जाएगा हमारा, ठीक है. Karukku and analysis है ना. What is the first thing you noticed about my summary? वो पूछ रही हैं. If you thought that it was full of repetitions, then you are right. If you felt that I had struggled to summarize the book, you were right again. If you thought that my summary did not give you a sense of linearity of narrative, things happening one after the other in a certain order, over various chapters, you were right again. Karukku, as you would have realized by now, is a very different kind of book, almost like chewing the cud. The narrator mulls over various events in her life again and again from different perspectives. As Lakshmi Holmstrom points out in her introduction, Bama groups the events in her life under different themes. For example, word, games, recreation, education, belief, etc. It is almost like ये बोल रहे हैं कि मतलब जैसे मान लो थीम वर्क है, तो वर्क में भी कुछ ऐसी बातें जो बार बार रिपीट हुई हैं. गेम थीम है, मान लो गेम्स के बारे में शी इज़ टॉकिंग अबाउट द गेम्स इन मैनी थिंग्स आर देयर इंक्लूडेड वन अगेन एंड अगेन, है ना. इट इज़ ऑलमोस्ट लाइक वॉचिंग द रिपल्स दैट रिजल्ट व्हेन अ नंबर ऑफ स्टोन्स आर हर्ल्ड इनटू द वाटर ऑफ अ पॉन्ड. पानी जब पॉन्ड में जब कुछ डाला जाता है ना पत्थर, तो पानी की कैसे वो घेरे घेरे से होते हैं, वो बार बार निकलते हैं. Every time that Bama thinks of her life, new ripples form and speed across the surface of her life, making her take stock of a large part of her life rather than the impact of a single incident in itself. Her life as a Catholic Christian girl and woman is mediated by the fact that she is a Dalit. On the other hand, her growing awareness of the Dalit identity marks her forays into the church and provokes her reassessment and reconstruction of what devotion to God means, of the role of faith and belief in her life. This then is a work that charts the growth and education of the narrator, Bildungsroman from childhood and innocent faith to adulthood, and अंडरस्टैंडिंग ऑफ द वेज ऑफ द चर्च एंड द वर्ड। अच्छा, इसमें बिल्डंग्स रोमन का मतलब होता है एक ऐसा जॉनर होता है नॉवल का जिसमें कि एक किसी की ग्रोथ दिखाई जाती है बचपन से लेके एंड तक, ठीक है। द नरेटर इज टेकिंग स्टॉक ऑफ हर लाइफ एट अ पर्टिकुलर क्लाइमेटिक मोमेंट ऑफ अ life after she has left the convent, and she reflects on various events and how they have shaped the contours of her life and impinged on her self understanding and socio-political awareness. As a child, Bama grew up in an atmosphere imbued, means filled with faith and religion, है ना? Christian rituals punctuated the day and festivals marked the year. However, religion comes with a sense of duty and obedience, as also an idea of class and caste in identity. She learns very early what it means to be a Dalit in Indian society, and soon again what it means to be a Dalit in the Catholic Christian society. However, as a believing Christian, one who had chosen to become a nun, even if one of her main aims was to make a difference to Dalit children, Bama doesn't give up on the vision or the message of Christianity, and instead critiques the Catholic institutions that preach one thing and practice another. The message and aim of Christianity, according to her reading of the scriptures, is love towards all. She implies equality and social justice. She thinks that God chose to side with the poor. She entered the convent precisely because she thought she could work better for the poorer section of society, especially Dalits, by working with the resources and the message of the church. The convent fails her, and she leaves the convent. But these reflections on her life make her understand the church had always worked in this manner in her lifetime, and that social and political and economic inequalities had always marked all the internal boundaries of her beloved village life, from invisible boundaries that demarcated castes to highly visible ones that marked out landed possessions. This awareness of injustice that permeates the life of our land doesn't bring despair for Bama, because Bama realizes that her own experiences and the resultant awareness is part of a larger Dalit consciousness, raising a larger movement. However, Karukku is first and foremost a work about life as a Christian Dalit and about the hypocrisies and double standards of the Catholic Church, about caste discrimination within it. Even as she attacks the church, she bemoans the rise of consumerism and lack of belief that marks contemporary life. Karukku is the story of a Dalit Christian woman who realizes that her identity as a Christian is heavily mediated by her identity as a Dalit, and that she must fight the discriminatory practices both within the church and outside, and that this is all the tougher as a woman. अब हम चैप्टर नंबर 4 का एनालिसिस करेंगे. आई सजेस्ट दैट यू रीड चैप्टर नंबर 4 केयरफुली एंड राइट अ समरी. Reread the summary I have already given of this chapter. Are we in agreement as to what Bama say in this chapter? If you were to give this chapter a heading, what would you choose? Okay, just wait. Actually ये वाला जो हमारा पोर्शन है ना, I'll finish it off here. यहीं पे मैं इसको ख़त्म करूँगी. उसके बाद हम ना चैप्टर नंबर 4 का ये शुरू कर देंगे, एनालिसिस शुरू करेंगे नेक्स्ट वाले वीडियो में. ठीक है. थैंक यू सो मच.